All right. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all excited for a very packed day of hot takes and scoops. It's great to have all you here. I've got two fantastic guests on uh, who are at least well known to me and I think reasonably known to the community, but I'll have them introduce themselves here. Um, Ed, would you like to go first?
I always like going first. Thanks ever so much. I'm Ed. This is my second appearance this week. Not on here, but on a stream. I always get excited about spoiler season. Thanks ever so much for having me on.
And Doomrat, would you like to?
Sure. Yeah, so I've been playing since Cyber Exodus back in 2013. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I like Netrunner and I like talking about it, so I'm looking forward to this.
Thanks. Yeah, and would you prefer to go by Doomrat or Alan or?
Alan's
I should
fine.
ask before.
Doomrat's kind of.
Okay. Oh shoot. Okay. Hopefully I don't have to restart the stream in a second, because I'm having a fun Discord drop there. But
Oh no.
all right. Well, I know everyone in the chat is excited for boats, and we're going to serve you by not talking about boats yet. So the first card we're going to talk about is Midnight 3 Arcology. It is a HB42 agenda expansion. When you score this agenda, draw 3 cards. Skip your discard step this turn. So this is HB 32. I don't know if we've seen, or no, 31. Can I read? No, it's 32. Okay, so, oh, and I forgot to update my stream thing. So I'll let Ed or Alan talk about this card while I fix my stream.
Well, we were just talking about this just before we came live on air, and I said, obviously, with Sandbox rotating, does this automatically go in to replace Sandbox in a lot of decks? And you, Alan, you're of the opinion that it won't necessarily.
Yeah. I feel like Sandbox is a really strong card, so it's worth having the 4/2 in your deck. But as opposed to Project Vitruvius or Luminal, which are 3/2s, and it's just better numbers. And this effect is not bad, but I don't know that it's worth playing a 4/2 agenda when you can play Project Vitruvius instead.
No, I think that's a really fair point. I mean, my initial thought is drawing 3 cards and not having to discard them is super, super powerful. The question is, what do you do with those 3 cards? And we had a couple of ideas, didn't we?
Yeah. We said. Or do you want to go ahead?
Sorry, no. We were saying, like, obviously lateral growth and advanced assembly lines go, which is one way that you would install cards quickly. we were talking about potentially doing something with Ginger and Acer. Yeah,
Yeah.
Sodom Storm was suggesting it as well.
Yeah, I think Jinja has potential. That deck always likes to draw cards. You could do it in Asa, so you get the extra draws, or you could do it in sports, and then you just draw a giant pile of cards and install them all. I don't know if it'd be good, but it'd be funny. Which is, it's not a bad place to be. Though if you just immediately install them all, you're not using the skip your discard step part of the card, but still.
Sure, but like...
Oh, I was gonna say, I feel like this card really wants like a Moons or a VLC in the pool so that you can use that skip the discard step. Because I think like draw 3 is good, but for scoring a 4/2, I'm not sure it's that great. Makes it a bit of a challenge, but it's one of those cards where like I think this is an interesting agenda in Eternal if Eternal wasn't quite so wild. So like as we get more cards that support this like wide HB, which has like been a thing for a long time, like maybe you can have a turn where you like fully op with 5 remotes and like then also score a 4/2. That seems a little bit kind of like I'm already winning in that situation, and maybe I would just rather have the Vitruvius anyway.
Yeah, if you've got some sort of wild combo deck where you're gonna draw a gajillion cards and then do something, maybe this enables that, but I don't know what that would be in the pool right now.
I suppose my only other thought is Mirror Morph is an ID that can potentially play a lot of cards in a single turn, or certainly use cards in a turn with like a red level clearance, something like that. So maybe just another ID where it might see play. I think the Mirror Morph suite is often 4/2s as well, isn't it? It's a kind of classic, mid-range agenda suite. So.
All right, well, we do have 10 cards to get through today, so let's keep it moving as much as I love to talk about marginal HB cards. And let's talk about another marginal HB card. No, I think I'll actually, for all I'm going to shit on the HB cards today, I think they're really interesting things. So, this is a 4-cost refuge campaign asset advertisement. It's 4 to trash and 3 influence, and it says, when your turn begins, gain 2 credits.
So my initial kind of weird thought on this one was Architects of Tomorrow sometimes was playing daily quests, right? While it's getting set up. So maybe this replaces that and frees up some influence for it. Which, it wasn't a horrific deck. It's like a tier 2.5 list. It's certainly kind of a challenge to play against once it gets going. It's a bit of a steamroller. And freeing up some influence might be able to do something there.
Yeah. I'm also thinking that, you could play this in Asa where you've got like in that deck we were just talking about with 4 or 5 remotes, and this can stay in the remote basically forever and make you money, which Asa likes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, if this is behind a drafter, are you really breaking that drafter to then go and trash this? Like, that's a good swing for the corp at that point.
Yeah, it's going to be like 7 credits probably. Like if you're breaking the drafter with MK Ultra.
Yeah, which is like definitely where my head went immediately, and it's hard to do better. Like, yeah, I guess technically Revolver does better, but like, oof.
Yeah, Bucky too, but still, even like the best killers, it's gonna be 6 credits to get rid of this thing.
Yeah, so that's like, it does kind of look decent. And sometimes I've been playing Ace, I'm like, oh, I really wanted that Nico campaign to stick around for 1 extra turn for my fully operational. The other thing I'm gonna do just very quickly, live on air, is say, hey, why would we want a bunch of credits in HB? We still don't know quite why yet, but this might be part of the picture.
If you hadn't called this out, I was about to call this out. Like, I don't know what we need 17 credits for, but maybe this and fully op are a way to get it.
Yeah. So
It's exciting what that 1.5 lines of text is going to be. Isn't it?
No, it's like, what could this be? I'm really excited. I'm hoping we get it tomorrow. Just judging by how this is going, I think by tomorrow we'll be able to talk about this card for real. Let's move on actually and talk about the 2 HB Ice as a, like, we can talk about. Oop, that was not what I meant to do. Talk about these ice. I'm looking a little less professional today, but that's, hopefully you'll all bear with me. These 2 ice sort of together. We'll talk about them both individually, but they very clearly also go together as well. So these are 2 HB ice. The first one is 2 to res, named Echo, and it's 0 strength. Whenever you res a piece of harmonic ice, place 1 power counter on this ice. This ice gains end the run for each hosted power counter. It is a barrier, and it is also subtyped harmonic. Then the other card we get is Wave, which is a 2 to res 3 strength code gate harmonic. And it says when you res this ice during a run against the server, you may search R&D for a piece of ice and reveal it. Add that ice to HQ. And then it has a single subroutine, which is gain 1 credit for each res piece of harmonic ice. Also, some Orbital is shouting out in the chat that the flavor text for Echo is end the run, end the run, end the run. Getting quieter and quieter, so.
Which is lovely.
Yeah, I love that flavor text. Someone also pointed out that I can't spot it in this image, but there is the surfer from the card surfer hidden somewhere in this whirlpool on Wave.
Oh, wild. That's, oh, maybe like over here. Oh, I do see him. Holy, okay, hold on. I'll let you guys talk about this stuff while I get a little square over Surfer. That's wild.
Is it just to the bottom of the card on the left as it would be resed?
No, it's actually like it's if you follow.
I think it's
like
upside
HB,
down, right?
Yeah, if you follow HB and just go straight from left to right there.
Yeah.
Or actually, sorry, from Nisei, just go straight to the left from that. You can see him. So sort of in the top middle-ish, just right of center. And I'm going to try and get a box around that. That's so cool. Wow. Things I did not know. Anyway, should we talk about the actual ice themselves?
Yeah, probably. So I really like these. The like Echo, like worst case scenario, this is a reasonably good gear check. Vanilla's gone, so we can't gear check on barrier for 0 anymore. But you get your 2 cost, go get a breaker or go home card, and then instead of just tailing off like most of those do, this one should get stronger over the course of the game. Hopefully, if we don't get it late. But there's some wishful thinking in there, and then. But like I like it, and then Wave, we know like a 3 strength 1 sub code gate is not terrible numbers from the fact that Magnet is annoying for a lot of icebreakers, and this can this gain 1 for each resed piece of harmonic ice could turn into not that many credits, but enough that that you don't want it to fire, and getting another piece of ice I think is quite good.
It could reasonably be 4 or 5 in a game, couldn't it?
Yeah,
quite reasonably, and that's good value.
Mm-hmm. It does early though become kind of a pad tap liability. Like
sure,
yeah, it's definitely yeah. That said, I think, like, if you're Asa, like, oh, I don't... And you're like, oh, I have 6 ice I'm really excited to put in my deck, but I want, like, just a few more ice to make the runner pause. Wave seems like a decent slot there, so that you can find the thing you want, and, like, oh, I'm pulling an ice out so I can do my next Asa trigger. Yeah.
Maybe that's the kind of ice that would be protecting Refuge Campaign.
Yeah, I could see that.
The runner has to think about just running through, especially if we're looking at playing Ginger potentially in that list as well. then all of a sudden, yeah, that ice that gets added to HQ is then installed as well.
Yeah.
Wait, that doesn't trigger. No, that doesn't trigger Jinja. You add it to HQ. You don't draw it.
Yeah.
That doesn't count then. Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
All right. Well, we managed to blister through the HB cards, unless either of you have any closing thoughts. So let's. Chichiling saying finding room for wave over gatekeeper will be hard and standard. I don't think you find room for it over. I think it's like, it's not in that gatekeeper slot. Like your 3 gatekeepers and 3 drafters are locked in, and then maybe wave finds its way in the remaining couple of ice slots that you have in that deck. But
Yeah, I think because there are some decks that really don't like to play 0 strength ice. Like if you're going a little bit slower, so I think you might see wave more in that case than you would in something that's rushing that really likes to have that 6 strength gatekeeper for 1 turn.
yeah.
But some decks you want to retain some tax ability into the late game.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's switch over to one of the new IDs in this set. And because I'm a tease, and also because we're going in set number order, it's the NBN one. So this is Pravdivos Consulting. Subheader Political Solutions is a 45-15 identity division. And it says, the first time each turn the runner makes a successful run, you may place 1 advancement counter on an installed card you can advance. Political news fit for public consumption. So,
my immediate reaction to this card is that Vladisbursk makes sense now.
yeah,
because charging that up manually was, well, I mean it's fine, but I don't think it's good. But with this you can
yeah. No, I mean I think this is the kind of card you need to make Vladisbursk make sense when you have Sandstand in faction. Like this takes that tempo change and makes it so radically different. If you're getting that advancement counter clicklessly and creditlessly.
for sure.
And yeah, Thanos PKC is calling out basically any of the advanceable ambushes. So Urtica Cipher and what's the HB one?
Overrider.
Yeah, Overrider. Cerebral Overrider is quite solid.
It's quite good with reversed accounts as well.
Yeah, reversed accounts is a good shout. And we also, you know what? Let's just throw in. And once again, I'm trying to manipulate images. There we go. Let's go with one of the other cards it was spoiled with, because NBN does not typically have a bunch of advanceable cards, but we are seeing Ubiquitous Vig, which is a advanceable asset that they get. And this is a 1-to-res asset advertisement. You can advance this asset. When your turn begins, gain 1 credit for each hosted advancement counter, and it's 4 to trash. So this is the opposite end of all those other traps. Like if I install an Urtica Cipher and the runner never runs it, I feel pretty bad. Like install advance. But if I install advance this and the runner never runs it, then I actually get to make some money off of it. So I think that's good. Someone was asking what a Vig was, and my impression is it's a mark.
Like a bribe or
fool.
something, right?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Hold on. Now I have to go look. Vig slang.
Here we go. Oops, with the text. Vig is the cut or amount charged by a sportsbook for taking a bet, also known as juice in slang terms.
Okay, right. So it's the cut on top from the house, I guess. So, I see Nice more often saying UV able to be printed because Daddy is rotating. Yeah, that's a good point. Probably you don't. Well, I don't know. 2 cards to gain 3, but the runner has a full turn in advance to go and trash it. I think is pretty reasonable. But Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's
Orbital beat
like
me to it. So
yeah, and like the value you're getting from that is daily quests,
yeah,
which you already have.
yeah, yeah. I think the Florida Trash does make this somewhat enticing over Daily Quest in OB in particular, or sorry, not OB, Protivos Consulting. Um, but
Yeah.
you know this.
Where do you think you're playing Daily Quest? I think Acme might be a place, but I'm
Yeah,
interested in your thoughts. Where you play Daily Quest over this, and where you play this over
as
Daily
Mari,
Quest.
I think like as Mari plays Daily Quest as well. Um,
Hmm.
I think this card. Someone is actually C Chilling is shouting out this as maybe okay in CTM as a CBG replacement. I'm not super sold on that. I think because you're spending 2 credits and 2 clicks to get a pad campaign. Because I don't
Yeah,
think you're
like
ever advancing this. So I feel like it's basically this ID, and maybe if you no, even the what is it, building a better world, which is a recurring advanceable credit, is just for advancing ice. So yeah. So that's sort of probably all that is.
no,
But
Built to Last could do it. You get $2 when you put the adverse advancement there on this there.
yeah, that's what I was just about. I was thinking you might lead into
Yeah.
that, so I was like,
Oh, sorry.
oh no worries. So I was like, oh, I'll stop talking so that you can so that you can grab it instead of me
Okay.
stealing the whole show.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's okay in Built to Last. Like you could double advance it, and then I don't know. It looks like an NGO maybe, but or I don't know. Like I'm still skeptical of this card because like I feel like what's gonna happen with Vig is you're gonna get 3 or 4 advancements on it, and it's gonna be well defended, and you're gonna feel really good about it, and then the runner's gonna play pinhole threading, and it's gonna get trashed.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I've seen one person say, "Hey, we gotta stop saying pinhole threading wins because that's just dives to Doomblade again." And like, Paul saw a lot of play, but it wasn't like everywhere. So maybe it's maybe we're over worried about a pinhole threading, but
That's totally fair. I do think though you've got to consider it when you're considering like investing like a super large amount in a single card.
yeah, for
Like it's
sure.
different when you've got 3 Nikos going or something, and or, I don't know who does that, but you know what I mean. Like, or you lose a Rashida, yeah, that's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. But if you put a bunch of advancement counters on this, it's several turns worth of
Yeah.
effort to
Yeah,
get there.
if you spend clicks to manually advance this card, it takes 2 turns for each of those advancements to pay back at least, and you're like often spending a turn to actually accelerate is like worth like you're also basically in those 2 turns you're giving the runner so many actions to go and make up for that additional credit tempo you've gained. So, um, well,
Probably a good card in Startup NEH though, as well.
oh, I still feel like you run pad campaign first, and if you really need an extra pad campaign, then you look at this card.
Mm.
Um, but someone's also shouting out like, "Oh yeah, the bluff is an agenda." Like that's actually maybe the one thing where CTM could get some fun play out of this, where it's like, "Oh, their out is that they have no advanceable cards in their deck, so if they install advance, it's always a Bologna." And it's like, oh, well, I guess then now I can install advance, and it's not always the Bologna. But, um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I kind of wonder about seamless and CTM also going forward with a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
the changes we're having, like the stuff rotating, and if you have that, then this is a little less bad, maybe.
Mm. I've been playing Seamless, yeah. Nice more often saying 12-inch CTM's the problem. I've been playing Seamless in Reality Plus, and it's been really good fun.
Oh yeah, you could do that.
With Vlad Grid. Obviously, Vlad Grid fits in Pravda a little bit better, but no, it's really good fun. And then again, Big might fit in there because it's a bit of a poor deck. It's the one downside.
Seamless Launcher's only 2 influence, though. You could play 3 copies in CTM. That might be a route forward for that deck, which I like. I would be a little surprised if CTM gets nothing, doesn't have a deck at all. But
The ID is too strong to go away. It's a cockroach. You can't kill it.
Okay, let's transition to the other NBN card here. Unless either of you have a couple more thoughts you want to get in about Ubiquitous Fig or Proptivost.
None.
I think what
No.
I think maybe I'll say one thing, which is, unlike Weyland, where they're advancing a lot of their ice, it looks like we're getting maybe assets in NBN that we want to be advancing, which makes this idea a little bit less like inevitably strong, and more about using these advancements to like make spikes. But we'll have to see if that actually
Yeah.
is supported, or if we get a bunch of advanceable ice down the road.
Yeah, like I think people probably still bring advanceable ice from Wayland because, like, if you want to be placing advancement counters, I feel like Ocket looks really good immediately in that
Yeah,
deck.
Aket's a great shout.
Hmm.
All right, well, I've pulled up another ice on the screen. It is a 2/2 Sentry Observer from NBN. So we've actually seen every type of ice this tonight. It is called Vasilissa, and it says when the runner encounters this ice, you may pay 1 credit. If you do, place 1 advancement counter on an installed card you can advance. As a single subroutine, give the runner 1 tag. It is 2 influence. And
So
what's your... Oh, Alan, go
or
ahead.
go ahead.
Alan,
So I feel
yeah.
okay. I'll go. I feel like at first glance this card looks a lot like Matrix Analyzer, which was historically a pretty bad card, but like it's hard to understate how much better give the runner 1 tag is than Trace 2 give the runner 1 tag. It was Trace 2, right? Like, or
I'm
is it Trace
pretty
3? Still,
Wait, I think it was Trace 2, because I feel like Trace 3 would have maybe been playable anyway.
like Trace 2, especially back in core times when all the good runners had a link, was really bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. You were playing against Kate and Andromeda,
Andy.
so they just paid 1 credit and like walked through. Oof.
Yeah, so this sub is much better than that sub. Like if you face check this, you're taking a tag. That's a it's a solid tempo hit.
Yeah, it really is. Ed, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Does this trigger with Built to Last? Does this work with Built to Last? It's not placing an
No, you're
advancement counter
placing
rather
an
than
advancement
advancing.
counter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a shame. That's a shame.
Yeah.
But I can see this in Weyland, really, with advanceable ice.
Yeah, if you've got maybe this
influence
is
isn't tons.
Yeah, I wonder if you could, like, if you're on like a BTL list that has some extra influence and is like doing a kill package, maybe this isn't the end of the world, because it like bumps you up and also like is an annoying face check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you got to get those Ocket, this second and third Ocket counters somewhere.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I do see someone saying, oh, maybe it's nice for an RPC type strategy. And maybe that's an interesting Proptivos deck we didn't talk about, is maybe you just like you put them all in a giant Urtica cipher and then like RPC it onto a Beal. Just go all in.
If you can make that happen before you lose, more power to you. Like I want to see that happen.
Yeah, it's how many you need.
You
How
need
many extra
biotic
counters on the
too.
field? Oh yeah, you need to
How about-
biotic
You need
as well.
13.
Yeah, 13
How about-
counters.
How about false flag?
Yeah, you
Yeah?
could. False flag takes what, like 9, 7?
Seven.
Absurd number of counters, but
7
you
and
can
a
do it.
click. But
False
Yeah.
It's
flag, a
also
card
just
I've-
doesn't. It also just doesn't hurt that bad to access false flag,
Yeah.
like because it's only 1 tag for every 2 advancements. So like, it's not like Urtica where you get up to like 5 and you can't access it anymore.
no.
Like you can still go get it.
Yeah.
But false flag is influence free. If you're
That's
in
true.
Wayland, at
Yeah.
least.
If you listen to Weyland, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I think this is an interesting little card. It's funny that we've got like Matrix Analyzer and Puppet Master back as part of the NBN identities, which are like cards that no one has ever identified with NBN. I think mostly because they were quite weak. But I think that's unless either of you have anything else to say, I think it's maybe time we get onto the boat in the room.
Yeah, let's.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so this is OB Super Heavy Logistics, officially the biggest boat in the set. Is a 4515 Corp. Excuse me, I'm going to take a deep breath in before I read this text out. So, whenever you trash a res card, except during installation, you may search R&D for one card with a printed res cost exactly 1 credit less than the trash card's printed res cost. Install and res the card you found, ignoring credit costs. Use this ability only once per turn. So what this ID is doing in sort of plainer language is saying when you trash a res card through a card ability, so installing over a card doesn't work, you can search your deck for a card that costs 1 less than the card you trashed, and you can install it and res it ignoring the credit costs, but not non-credit costs. So things like if you have to forfeit an agenda or something, or like if you're trying to res a zealous judge, the runner still needs to be tagged, things like that. I think this is one of those cards where it's like, oh, there's so many words, but like implicitly what it's doing is pretty simple. It's I trash a card and I get to go and find a card that's 1 cheaper and get it out for free. And that's like the whole gist of the card. And this is also, I think, the card I've been most excited to see spoiled. So.
Yeah. Bilby's got it right. Although there's a lot of words there, the words are really just kind of getting around edge cases where does it work here? No. Does it work here? No. Can I do it twice in a turn? No. So it's what I think once you've got your head around it, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, executing the ability is relatively easy.
Yeah. This is really dependent on the support cards, though, isn't it?
It really is. I think it's there's a couple of cool tricks that someone asked a question about, like if you score an OZF protocol, can you trash a 2-cost card, fetch a reconstruction contract, and get a counter on the OZF protocol? And the answer is yes. I didn't think this was the case, but it actually is. Basically, whenever you trash a card, that's when OB fires, and that happens before you get the effect of the card that you've trashed.
Yeah, because the trash is almost always a cost, so the costs are before the effects.
Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty. There's going to be a lot of silly things like that. One thing I saw was someone saying, "Can I?" Can I like? Yeah. I think actually fetching the reconstruction contract to get the advancement counter is one of the biggest ones. That was a fun little surprise for me.
Yeah, because that's a biotic labor in the bank if you can protect it for a turn.
Yeah, and the fun thing is if they go and run it, you can, because it's now the runner's turn, you can trash that reconstruction contract and like fetch an Urtica cipher or something, and even plop it down with a counter. So. Also, I see Nua Ill asking what happens if the corp trashes an ice to install a new one during that run. So basically, whenever you trash an ice from the server, if that ice is behind or like in front of the runner, basically that ice always is going to end up behind the runner. No matter how you do it, the ice always ends up behind the runner.
Yeah. So, like, if you have border control Enigma and they break border control, and then you pop it, or well, that's not a good example because the run ends.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what ways we can trash an ice through a card effect.
Maganga or what?
Yeah.
Pick a trap ice. So what a trap ice that trashes itself You hit Maganga. It does you some net damage, trashes itself, and then it installs, I don't know, a pop-up window that'll be behind you, and you go hit whatever the next dice is.
Fair.
That makes sense. I'm using some obscure cards for this example.
Yeah.
Yeah, trap ice is a good kind of general.
Yeah. And someone else is
trash, yeah.
calling out, like, it's a weird thing where, like, if someone pops border control, you do get to res and fire the enemy before the run gets ended, because you've paid the trash cost on border control happens, an enemy comes into play, you put it on the server that the runner is running, it's now resed during a run on the server, so the runner takes their damage, and then you end the run. So
I'm not convinced that's good, but it's super trolly.
yeah, it's like, oh, I guess now when I run against Ob, I need to make sure I have 3 cards in hand, which is like good practice for snare anyway, and like, but also you're spending influence on something that doesn't really win you the game most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, there are much better ridiculous things you can do in Ob than that. That one's just annoying because you have to plan around it because people will have it.
Yeah, when you're playing on JNet Casual, you always have to keep that interaction in mind. In tournament plays, I suspect that's not the optimal version, but you never know, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, people are calling out also, like, if you're going to pop Reconstruction Contract to fetch something that's advanceable, you do need another advanceable card on the board somewhere. Probably an ice, so a Mausolus or an Ice Wall or an Aket. Like, just any of those sorts of cards are probably going to be your common targets. We should also talk about a support card that got spoiled. So let me get that up on screen. And this is a riff on one of my favorite cards of all time, which is Civitagore Excavator. It is a 0 res asset industrial. When your turn begins, you may trash one of your other installed cards. If you do, gain 3 credits. It is 1 influence and 4 to trash. So this is obviously here as support for the ID. I don't imagine most other corps want to have Aesop's Pawn Shop in their deck, but I'd love to be proven wrong, and this is influenced so that I can be. But
Yeah, I don't expect to see this outside of Ob, but I'm really interested if someone does have a deck for it.
but I do think this is cool because, like, one of the ideas in Ob seems to be like, oh, you're always trashing, like, if we have card effects that trash. And also, I don't know how we didn't say, like, hey, border control is probably like the premier Ob card, so finding 3 cost things is a big deal. But then Civitagore Excavator helps you turn some of those cards that maybe you've extracted value out of, or ice you've extracted value out of, into a new card and some forward tempo and credits, which I think is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, maybe you do your bad anemone thing, and then then anemone is not a great ice after that, and you can eat it with excavator and
Yeah, and then you
install
can go
something playable.
Yeah, like, I mean, a Maryland campaign Civitagore Excavator, like, that's a nice little loop there, so that you can get an extra credit. If you get that first Maryland for free, it's actually a really solid piece of econ. So you're basically getting, what is that, like 9 credits for no effort, or set 8. Yeah,
Something like that.
something like that.
The math eludes me at this moment.
Yeah,
but...
it's and then
I'm wondering about splashing Excavator in Restoring Humanity, which cares about face down cards in archives, obviously.
Oh yeah,
you could do that.
Yeah, so you have some extra. Oh, I guess like a Ginger deck. Well, I don't know that you want to put this in a Ginger deck, but
Like
so
you did all that. Or go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, you did all that work to get all those ice out there. I don't know if you want to turn around and sell them for 3 credits.
Yeah, that's a pretty desperate situation. I also, Will Whiteblade is saying we can NEH, this lets us turn. This basically makes a click for 3 credits because the card you install that you're trashing with the excavator is replacing itself. So you're turning all your cards into green beans, but not quite. And maybe like if you can get some additional value out of 1 or 2 of them, maybe that's enough to be a really cool deck. Like every card being green beans is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, like go ahead.
Startup Miramorph plays that same kind of like low cost asset with click abilities, doesn't it? Like the 2 and 1. So you might see Excavator Splash there in Startup, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, that doesn't trigger nano etching matrix, right? Like, okay, yeah, runner trashes. Just checking.
Okay.
That would be wild.
Yeah. Also, selling your failed traps if you're a trap deck is maybe this is if you have an extra, you build your deck, you have 14 influence, and then you have a bunch of failed traps. You're like, oh yeah, I can throw an excavator in. Maybe they'll think it's a snare, and if not, oh, I get to get my money back for a snare, right? Also, I do want to shout out someone corrected this, and actually not even just someone, the rules manager for Nisei corrected this, but if you trash a 1-cost card with Civ-Couture Excavator, you can fetch a Rashida, but the Rashida won't fire because it wasn't installed when the when your turn begins triggers came around to go and do their stuff. So it's a little unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Fair.
Do we have? I mean, I think that I'm assuming Ob is going to get more support because this 1 card does not make a deck probably, but it's really cool to see people already talking about the neat things you can do, and I think this is an idea I'm very excited. And I think Eric has some more Weyland stuff tomorrow, so hopefully, and is also coming on, so hopefully we'll have some a little bit more to talk about there too.
Oh, I did want to say one more thing about Ob. I have from, and I don't know how to pronounce his name, Anzuke, whatever, that these little boats on Ob are as big as our largest oil tankers these days. So those are 400 meters. So this makes just roughly this Ob boat a kilometer long. So that's a big boat.
That is a big boat. Yeah, wild. So that does put the endurance. The endurance probably is like, I wonder if it's like maybe the size of like one of those white
one of those little
drums
waves
probably, or maybe one of those waves. Maybe we'll in Parhelion, or maybe later in the set we'll get some boat v boat action, and we can just see the endurance coming up to this giant ass boat and barely being noticed.
That'd be awesome. I want that to happen.
All right, let's talk about the, I think, last card that was spoiled today. We actually went through these at a really good clip. Trust Operation is a 0-cost gray ops operation from Weyland. It is 3 influence, and it says play only if the runner is tagged. Trash 1 installed resource. Install and res 1 card from archives, ignoring all costs.
I mean, trashing the 1 resource is the lesser half of this, right? Installing and resing a card ignoring all costs is really good.
Yeah, like I feel like this card says install a free archer. Like that's maybe the
free Tithonium.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also know like assuming we don't get tag punishment to kill outside of boom. Like I know a line against a lot of Weyland decks is like, oh, I will, clear down to 1 tag and then keep playing Netrunner because you can't actually do anything to me on 1 tag, and spending a click and 2 credits to trash my resources is kind of bad most of the time. So maybe you can put this in as a one of, like even in an ob deck potentially, where like, oh, I'm trashing all my stuff. Oh, and now I get to put 1 back out for free and start my value chain down again. Like even getting back an archer is obviously great. Getting a border control with this also is not like that bad.
No, yeah, that's yeah, especially in Ob, that's good value. Like,
But yeah, I do think like the Sands and the Archers are where my brain immediately goes to for getting value out of it. If I'm gonna like build a deck around this card, that's where I go.
yeah, yeah, and if this
So
was less influence, like if it was one, I could definitely see it in like CTM, like they float a tag. Ah, here's my Sand back, but like at 3 influence, I have trouble envisioning it out of faction.
Yeah, I one or two. I think this is going in a lot in a decent. It becomes a thing you have to think about against CTM, um, but I don't think this is gonna make it at 3 influence and a 12 influence ID.
our local WhatsApp group we're discussing today Lady Liberty in this list that we're talking about here.
Oh, that's
Mm.
interesting.
Mm.
Like you eat it with Excavator, go get your border control, somehow get them a tag, and play this and get it back at 0. That seems good.
Yeah, sure. Or
Yeah.
you can just recur your Lady Liberties like once you've gone
Once you,
past the point where it's doing stuff
yeah.
for you.
Yeah. So you score a ones, an X1, then an X2, and you only have ones and twos in your deck, so you reset and go again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely could
Could
be.
be
And
fun.
like, if you are playing an asset heavy deck, maybe you're able to get them to take a lot of tags and HHN, but they, maybe they have no free lunch or something to like, or maybe they're playing Marrow, so they just have a 7-card hand size and you can't boom them, and you want a backup plan. Trust Operation maybe fits in there too. So.
Yeah. I think it's really a good card. And I think it's a card that as a runner you have to be aware of. Because it could see play anywhere in Weyland, really, couldn't it? Yeah, Morseless, just running through Morseless and taking the tag and floating it is like very kind of standard.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, Mouseless does make this quite a bit more scary, because that is a tough thing to break.
Yeah, I never want to pay for Mausolus. It's the worst.
No, you never want to pay for it unless you have to, right? But you have to potentially.
Yeah, I feel like this card, I think this card's gonna have a hard time finding a slot in decks. But as the runner, you always are gonna have to keep it in mind as like, how bad does this go if it fires off right now, and maybe if we see more powerful resources, that this becomes a little bit more of a threat. So.
Yeah, I mean, Alan, my fellow Adam aficionado, Adam's suffering at the moment, right? With all these spoilers, there's not a lot of good stuff here, and there's a lot of bad stuff.
I like no free lunch in Adam.
I was just about to say, I think Adam probably can play 2 to 3 no free lunch and be pretty happy.
Yeah, because you hate being tagged as Adam,
and like playing an influence for a green beans that also detags as, or sorry, at that point it's not green beans, it's blue beans.
Yeah, but you do that anyway, don't you? We're all agreed on this.
Yeah.
I just figured out what you meant by green beans. I've been wondering about that like the whole time.
Oh yeah, for those of you who are not deep in, I'm gonna even say this is mostly like beans. A New England thing. Is let me go find the card. Beanstalk Royalties, which has the word bean on it and is Weyland, so it's green. That is my understanding of the whole provenance of that name. But for those of you who have joined a little more recently, I will pull the card up for you. And it is a 0-to-play transaction operation, gain 3 credits. Oh, and CTZ, you're right. Actually, I think coined it. and then I play with a player. I play in the meta where I play. It is often endlessly referred to as green beans. So
And then from that blue beans is Alan, I think, turned me onto this in Adam, the easy mark,
yeah,
which is a former Adam staple.
Yeah, I like Adam just really likes things that cost 0 and gain you some number of credits. So
Yeah.
like it makes sense there.
yeah. So here is easy mark. So
Gotta be careful. People are gonna think these are the spoilers.
What? No reprints. They said no reprints.
They said no reprints, but they lied. Yeah. But who gave him those beans? Also, once again, an Abelian Grape. Love the username so freaking much. All right, so yeah, we've got today was two really big cards. That was not one of the really big cards, but two really big cards today. Nope. There we go. I think these are going to be, I think OBS and ID I'm like can't wait to get my hands on. Probably both a little bit less, but I think also there's going to be a group of players where Pravdivost is so their jam.
It's me. I'm the one who likes to play the grindy glacier decks. I will make my opponents miserable.
I mean, and that there's also the people that want to do Yomi but want to do it out of a faction that's got real cards in it. So
That's true too. Yeah, you can do that.
you can also do that. So I think this ID has a couple of different faces to it. I suspect Ob will also have a couple of different faces to it. So we've got some. I think it's interesting that no new keywords, but these IDs do feel pretty unique and different compared to what we've got before.
Yeah, this is definitely wild relative to the corp IDs that Nisei has ever printed. Like, both of these are way more interesting, I think, than anything Nisei has done yet.
Yeah,
I think, unless I'm forgetting something, but no, like I don't have a problem with that necessarily because Ashes was the first set and then a beginner set, but it's nice to see some like really interesting branching out kind of effects instead of more when you do this gain credits.
Yeah, I think PD is maybe the one where I'm like, okay, that's a little bit more, but that is basically a when you score gain a thing. But but yeah, no, I'm critical of Ashes, but I think its flaws make a ton of sense in context in a bunch of ways. And Gateway, I think, hits its mark really well. So it's great to see a set that I think, at least these IDs to me, are really hitting the mark on going big and going splashy and like making the Netrunner we're gonna play in 2 weeks very different than the Netrunner we were playing a week ago, which is something I really like about card games.
Yeah, for sure.
There was a bit of criticism earlier of Pravdivost. Kind of punishing runners for making runs. I think actually it's good for the general meta that you have cards and IDs like that as a balancing mechanic, because there's a danger and a fear that Turtle's going to run rampant a little bit, and kind of punishing Turtles is good. Would be my point.
Yeah, having like any compelling reason to not have the runner, or some compelling reason to not have the runner just run every click it's good to have something like that in the meta. And hard hitting news can't carry the whole burden of that.
Yeah.
No, and that kind of leads on to people's criticism of hard hitting news, and maybe it is because it's so ubiquitous, because it's the only way or one of the strongest ways of punishing successful runs, and having an alternative is a good thing, both short and long term for the game.
Yeah, I think making sure that there's stuff other than HHN that says to the runner, really think about the value of this run. Like just getting a single card and gaining a credit equivalent. Maybe we don't want that to be always good against every corp in every circumstance. I think is a worthwhile thing to look at. We'll see. Maybe Proptivos becomes really annoying, but I also think Infinite Nutshell Jamie is pointing out like this does something that like is a thing against CTM or against a lot of decks where it's like, oh, instead of against Pilana you would batch your draws, so you try to have turns where you drew and turns where you didn't. Now this is going to say, oh, I'm going to have turns where I run and maybe turns where I try and take it off so that the corp doesn't get as much tempo.
Yeah, for sure.
And actually, one thing
I was just thinking in that vein, this Pravdos really hates deep dive decks because they're gonna do nothing, all my runs at once.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a very good point. And also, like, I think it's gonna be interesting with Proptivos, like, oh, if I haven't drawn my Vladisperse grids, and I have a 4/2 in hand, because I'm guessing you play some 4/2s with Vlad grid, because I think Vlad grid still works better with 4/2s than it does with 3/2s. Though maybe with this ID, you're okay. You just always put the advancement counter on the Vlad grid, advance it once, install advance, and you score your 3/2, right? But if you are playing a 4/2 version, like, do you install advance the 4/2 and then just say like, oh, good, I saved myself a click next turn, or do you like install it as if it was something else and then get the value hope you get your value from the runner actually going and run?
Yeah, because you can play it like it's a Vlad grid and you're waiting for the runner to charge it up, and then they don't actually care that much about one token on it. So they might think that, oh, I can leave that another turn until it has 2 tokens and then go get it.
Yeah. I think that'll be a little bit of interesting. We'll see how much that manifests in practice, but that might be an interesting little mind game.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything else to say about Ob at the moment, but I am very excited, assuming this idea gets just like 1 or 2 more cards that look good for it.
Yeah. I think I'm not sure what the decks are gonna look like for Ob, but I'm sure they're gonna be wild.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just remembered that MCA is a card. That's got to do something, right? I don't know what we get at 0 that wins us the game after MCA, but like, seems pretty reasonable.
So what we're doing with MCA?
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah, maybe we could like reverse the count. Seems not great. There's got to be something at 0 that we can do that's rude. But anyway, I'll let
probably
smarter
Ronin,
people...
right? Is that enough clicks for Ronin?
Oh, is that enough clicks for Ronin? That's a great question. Someone was shouting that out earlier, and I could never.
Yeah, it's enough. It's enough clicks.
Ronin is because it's exactly enough. Yeah, so we can MCA Ronin someone if we can like previous turn hit them with that border control anemone trick, right?
This feels like magical Christmas land, but I really want someone to do it.
Yeah,
it will happen.
Well, someone will make it, play 1 game, post up that 100% win rate on Jinteki.net, and it'll make it to the front page immediately. So
Andre will have to play it on Thursday nights.
Exactly. Yeah, I look forward to torturing Andre with these Ob decks, because this is very much a Shaper ID, but on the other side of the table. So I'm glad.
I mean, it is green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Ed and Alan. Well, thank you so much for coming on. My dinner is about to get served up. Any final thoughts?
I was interested to hear that you were both slightly down on Vig. I thought it was the strongest card revealed today, but
really,
I hear what you're saying. But
I saw that take and was blown away by it.
Yeah,
but
is that a UK Slack thing? Like they like Vig, right? Maybe.
I think it was Kenny.
Oh, okay.
Was it Kenny? Oh, I also saw UK being very high on it too.
Yeah, I think Kenny rated it 9 out of 10. But I could be wrong there.
Okay, I am willing to admit that this card might be better than I think it is, but I cannot possibly fathom it being 9 out of 10.
Yeah, 9 out of 10 from Simon Moon.
We'll see, I guess.
Also on that, an 8 out of 10 for the Weyland ID. To be honest, don't get it, but it's got a lot of historically busted words. I
mean,
I did see that. Yeah.
I that's like, I don't play a lot of Magic, but I definitely, like, one of my heuristics is the more words on the card, generally the better it is.
Yeah.
And that my guess is that's going to hold true for Ob, but we'll find out for sure. So,
Have you ever seen one of those streams that's like Magic the Gathering player rates Hearthstone cards, worst to best, and that kind of thing? We should do that for Netrunner, like get a Netrunner a Magic streamer on to rate some of these cards, having never played Netrunner before.
we could do the classic of showing them Diesel, and they go, "Why isn't this in every deck?"
Yeah. What do you mean draws 3?
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, to both of you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Tomorrow, we've got Eric on stream to talk about some spoilers. We also have Ben Hamill, who I'm looking forward to getting to know and talk to, someone who's been playing, I think, a little bit less in Standard at the moment. And then Saturday, I've got some content coming out, and I think I will also then do a daily cast roundup, because I've got some guests lined up, so I think I better do one. So you'll get a double dose of me on Saturday, and then Spoiler Week will continue. So look forward to seeing you all around, and I'm really excited that we got the big IDs revealed, and now we're going to start rounding out and seeing what decks we can really build. So yeah, thanks everyone for coming by, and thank you both again for so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.